Hi friends, this is Dr. Ameet Patki and you are watching the first episode of The Living Legends brought to you by Meyer Vitabiotics and Science Integra. And thank you for being with us. The word corona brings a lot of panic, depression and anxiety in all of us. In fact, it is the most common word used today. Our internal dialogues are also about corona, and our external dialogues, be it with our family, friends, colleagues, or even patients, is about corona. This has brought around a large amount of darkness and negativity in our lives. But few of us know that corona has also other meanings. Corona means a crown, a sign of royalty. And the outermost surface of the sun is also called as a corona, the sun being the brightest object in the universe. So let's remove this darkness, this negativity from our lives and look at the positive aspects of corona. Today, I have the fortune and the honor to bring to you one of our most royal obstetricians and gynecologists. An obstetrician who has brought in a lot amount of charisma. Obstetrician of the celebrities, of the rich and the famous. A Dhanvantri awardee, a recipient of the Padma Shri, but a person who is very humble, a person who has lived through the Second World War, and I'm sure he'll have stories to tell us how to get out of this depression, negativity. So let's take a look at his lifestyle. So please join me in welcoming our first guest on Living Legends, Dr. Rustam Sunawala. Let's meet Dr. Sunawala.
Good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for being with us and taking time to chat with us and tell us and take us through your life. In the various meetings that I've had with you, I gather you come from very humble beginnings. Your grandfather had 10 children, 5 sons and 5 daughters. Of those sons, 2 became solicitors, 2 became doctors, and 1 was an engineer. You were born to one of the doctors. So tell me, how was your childhood? Some reminiscences of the past.
Yeah, thank you, Ameet, for this opportunity to be able to just talk, which I would enjoy since it brings back many memories of the old. We were brought up in a joint family. Our eldest uncle, who was a solicitor, supported the younger siblings and paid for their education and everything, because my grandfather was working in the GIP, or Great Indian Peninsula Railway, and at Hurda was the headquarters. So he would be traveling by train whenever he was on duty, come to Bombay, stay for a day or two, and was back to Hurda. So my uncle, the senior most, was responsible for bringing up the family. And we had a huge mansion in Dadar, near the Dadar station on the eastern side. And as already mentioned by Ameet, there were 10 siblings. Two were staying away, but 8 of us, the siblings, were staying in the same mansion in one room. Each one had to stay with their own kids. And there was a huge big hall in which we had our dinner and everything. And like that for many years. And when my dad settled down and we found it impossible to live in one room with 4 brothers and my parents, 4 brothers in all, and my parents, that we moved out of that bungalow and moved to Dadar Parsi colony in a flat of our own. But
Yes.
I remember those days very well, and the enjoyment that we had playing, because it was always a house full of children and you never lacked company. And that was the main, my childhood period.
Yes. You also told me once that you all were 4 brothers, and I'm sure there must have been a lot of bonhomie amongst you all, but some amount of rivalry. Please tell our viewers about that one episode of the neighbor who came to complain about the noise.
Yeah, I remember that. We were 4 brothers and very close, in 1.5, 2 years between each one of us. And we used to fight incessantly for anything and everything. And my mother was finding it very difficult to try to intervene. Sometimes our cook, Bauji, used to be called to my mom separate us. And we had, when we had moved to Dadar Parsi colony, a house with 3 apartments, ground floor, first and second. We were on the second. The first floor was occupied by the landlord, and the ground floor was a family. And it was so funny. The family's surname was Khodaiji, means God. So my dad always used to say, we have God below and we have God above, looking after us. And when we had really bad fights, my mother used to clap and call the landlord from the first floor. And he would come and he would smack us, separate us, and always came with a stick. One night, my mom and dad had gone out, and we were in the house playing and fighting and making a lot of noise. And we came to know that that gentleman, the landlord, was coming up and he rang over the bell. So we opened the door, he came into the room, and once he came into the sitting room where we were fighting, my brother put the light off, so it was all dark. And we all 4 got together and gave him such a pasting.
Well, so you'll beat him up this time.
Never after that came up to intervene in our fights. But we fought also a lot. But when it came to any help, any need, we all 4 were as one.
Yes, and that is what is important. Absolutely.
Happy part of the family.
You finished your 11th standard SSC from the Antonia de Silva School, and that was also the time that the Second World War was almost coming to an end. But there was disappointment in store for you. One is because you couldn't go to Xavier's College, where your 2 other brothers had gone, and you were told to go to Ruya College, which was close to home. Soon after that, you took admission into Nair Hospital, for medical education. And you tell me that Nair was a very sporty college and your parents had already instilled a lot of sport activities to you. So you all were very good in hockey, football and tennis. But there was one sport that you were also not aware that you were good. And that came up in your Parsi sports day. Can you tell me the incidents of how that F changed to R?
Yeah, it was, we were lucky. Where our house was, behind there was a triangular huge garden where we could play hockey, football and all. And in front of us was the Daver Parsi colony Gymkhana, where there were sports, more activity, badminton, tennis, more indoor. Now, at that time, I used to be more involved in badminton, tennis, hockey, football. That was my favorite games. Cricket, never liked. It was too slow. You had to waste a whole day waiting, and that somehow never attracted me. At that time, not even now. I find cricket very boring.
Okay.
But hockey, football, I like, and I watch even the FI games, football games of Europe and all with great enthusiasm. It's really fun.
Which is your favorite club now? Which club are you now?
The clubs, Manchester.
Manchester. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, that's my favorite club. So at that time, there was a Parsi annual sports in which Parsi athletes from Karachi would come, Calcutta would come. At that time, Colombo was considered sort of part of India only. Colombo would come, and very, very full of fun because close competition was there and people coming from all parts of India. My brother was representing Bombay and in athletics. And whilst training, about 5-7 days before the meet, he sprained his ankle and pulled the muscle. So then there was nobody left to represent from Bombay and in that competition. So Mr. Pardiwala, who was our coach, asked me to run. And that was the first time I really joined in an athletic big event. Previously, small school athletics and all we were taking part. And what they could do in the entry form, my brother's name was Fardun, so FP Sunawala. So they made F to R, so that I could then compete. And I was surprised when against all the competition, I stood first in 100, 200 meters and 400 meters. So that turned me from games to athletics. Because Mr. Padiwala immediately said, no football, no hockey, that damages your feet. You must take part in athletics. And a lot of things then happened in athletics.
Yeah, and that actually was printed in the news also, in a small news cutting which I've seen, and hopefully we'll be able to share with the viewers. But that got you on to the All India Olympics, and you took part in the All India Olympics in the relay race also. So that is some incident I want you to narrate for us.
No, first, then from the Parsi sports, we were in Nair. So Nair, we started representing in the university competition.
Yeah.
Nair, JJ, KEM, and Siddharth, and Xavier's, and Ruya, and Kodar, all the colleges. It was called intercollegiate. So we were representing Nair and running for the intercollegiate. And there also I scored very well. So when it came to inter-varsity, it was called, in inter-universities. I represented Bombay and we had the games in Bangalore. And it was great traveling by train as a team. A lot of companionship you develop. And then from InterVarsity, we were practicing or more representing Bombay. And at that time, there was Mr. Lavi Pinto. He was the fastest man in Asia. The times of that time were 10.8, 10.9, and if you clocked 10.6, you were a champion. My timings used to be 11.4 seconds behind, but that mattered. So it was a question of selecting Bombay team to represent in the All India Olympics, which was in Jabalpur. And there were 5 of us on the sprinting side. I used to do then only 100 and 200 meters. So Lavi Pinto, then Bunny Fernandez, then Gowda was the 3rd runner, and the 4th runner was to be selected. And that was to be between me and another. And we both were tying exactly. But Lavi Pinto, as the captain, he said, I want Doctor to be in the team. And when he said, naturally, the management put me in the team because we 4th and the 5th, we were very, very close. And then we went to Jabalpur and we had to face Punjab and army teams, all very huge and tough. And I was number 3 in the relay team. So Bunny Fernandez, first ran, he was leading. Then Gowda afterwards ran. Then my turn came. And I took the baton and I was number 2. There was an army guy who had just overtaken me. And I was passing the baton to Lavi. He was so jumpy and so fast, he just took off, right, to shout, Lavi, wait! And he turned around, took the baton, and believe me, he was literally moving like wind, getting over that army guy, and we broke the record in 1952, All India Olympics. And that record was broken in 1982.
So that's yes. So that just shows that how much of enthusiasm you all had and the power that you all had, and you all beat up the army and the Punjab teams, whom we generally feel are much more powerful or have much more strength in you.
Yeah,
you very humbly told me that once you finished your MBBS and you passed it in the 2nd attempt, but luckily your obs and gynae marks were very good. So naturally you went into obstetrics and gynecology. How was your residency stay in Nair Hospital? Can you tell us a little on that?
Yeah. At that time, there was no super specialization. Either you become a physician or a surgeon. The ladies were more going on for obs and gynae. If you did not manage this, you became a dentist. Yes. And if you didn't manage that, you become a veterinary. So that was the working at the time. So my eldest brother became a physician. Fardun, second Jamshed, Fardun, my second brother, became a surgeon, and he really did very well in exams and all. And I took up obs and gynae. And I don't frequent it because even at that time, I had a inclination towards the safety and the health of the women. Because my mother, I used to see, we used to slog whole day. food for us, feed us, and literally both my parents' life was centered around we four, taking us to gymnasium, making us do boxing, wrestling, gymnastics, and then games, so that all the athletic things were due to the support that my parents gave. And I
So
saw
encouraging
that
to hear. It
combination
is very encouraging.
because my mother was very close to me. My elder two brothers, because of shortage of space in the big bungalow, was sent to boarding. And I was then the favorite between my dad and mom.
Okay.
And they used to really take care of me. So my preliminary education, I used to go with my father to the clinic at Grand Road. And a tuition master would come who taught me ABCD and 1, 2, 3, 4. So this was all by private tuitions that I got the primary education and then joined school.
You also told me that during your Nair days, a large number of patients in Nair were from the red light areas, and they had a large amount of STDs or sexually transmitted diseases, and patients were by far and large very shabbily treated by the doctors. So you had in your mind that you would want to look after these downtrodden women. And when you became a registrar, you gave instructions to your juniors that respect your patient. That is so very, very humble, and I think which is very good teachings to your juniors, because you have to respect the patient, because they come with all the trust to you to be cured. Unfortunately, you told me that you did not get a registrar post in Nair, and that's how the loss of Nair was Wadia Hospital's gain, and you became a registrar in Wadia. In the Wadia Hospital, because you were very proficient in your surgeries, people used to actually come to watch you operate, and that gave you a large amount of self-confidence. But you also narrated one incident to me about the telephone operator, the unmarried girl who came for a termination. Can you narrate that incident? Because I think that set the stone in your mind that you would want to get into contraception, you would want to get into family planning in the latter years of your life.
Both my parents came from a middle class family. My father from my mother's side was a liquor shop owner, and my grandfather from father's side was a railway engine driver. So both the families came from very simple families, educated, and that's why we were brought up. And when I started into medicine, initially there were not many rich patients, but basically in my heart of heart, I would not differentiate a rich person who can afford your treatment and a poor patient who may not be able to afford the treatment. The treatment given, the time given would be the same whether the patient came from upper class or a lower social sort of a background. And I'll give some simple things. At Nair Hospital, at that time, the red light district was for us. That was between JJ and Nair. A lot of patients used to the red light district patients, the sex workers. And at that time, syphilis and gonorrhea was rampant. It means practically out of 10, 8 would be having. And they used to go to JJ or they would come to Nair. And when I became a registrar and started the OPD, in no time, a lot of the red light area ladies are coming. Then I used to just judge why. I'll tell you very simple things. If the patient was on table waiting to be examined, I would go and purposely cover their legs up to the knees, tell them I'll be examining you. While one of my bosses used to come, even if they were covered, would just fling open the bed sheet, expose them completely, very rudely, roughly examine them, and shout and scream at them just because they were red light area individuals. And from that time, my OPD became very, very full of the people like that. The other thing which made me go into contraception and family planning was the need at that time for a good contraceptive because of these sort of patients. And because termination of pregnancy was not legal or not available, they used to go to quacks or even go to the qualified doctors. And they would be really messed up. At that time, the common technique was to take a particular stick and insert it into the uterus as a foreign body. And a young telephone operator, very pretty, 22-year-old, unmarried, came with severe peritonitis. At that time, we had only penicillin and chloromycetin. We didn't have the high-powered antibiotics available. And this was in 50s, 55, 56, 57. So we tried to save her, and we didn't know a stick was in. There was no ultrasound. X-ray did show some shadow as a doubt. And being a telephone operator and was in hospital for more than 10 days, we were just asking what was done. And she then, with little fear, because these patients never easily revealed who was the guy or doctor or lady who did the procedure. They were always very protective of them for whatever reason. So after a lot of confidence she got, she uttered the telephone number, which we found was a doctor. And I just phoned that doctor and very politely said, I'm Dr. Sonaula. I'm calling from Meyer Hospital. There is a patient here, severe peritonitis. And I'm not from the police. I'm not going to inform the police. But tell me exactly what is done. He fired me back. How dare you phone me? What do you think? Then finally, because we could not control, that doctor slammed the phone down. And immediately 2-3 doctors came because he phoned his contact. And my consultant finally agreed to do a surgery. But it was not fortunate at all. Next day of the surgery, poor thing died. And that really shook me. A young girl, 22, unmarried, being caught with a pregnancy and has to lose life because of that. So that was the reason why I started working on termination of pregnancy and devised the instruments, the bottle, so that it became easy by suction and safe to terminate. And even if I can talk a little more.
Yes, I think what we'll do is we after this you finished your MD and then you went to the UK. So let's take a break here, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back from the break, we will meet Dr. Sonavala in London, in the UK, London College, after the break. Welcome back to the first episode of Living Legends with Dr. Rustam Sonawala. Sir, you went to Wadia as a registrar, and we all know that Wadia was at that time one of the busiest obstetric units. Can you tell us something more on your stint in the Wadia hospital?
Yeah. No, when I joined Wadia in 1957, there was no Science Hospital, no Cooper Hospital, no good hospital beyond Parel. And KEM was only gynae. So all the bad obstetric cases from 20-mile diameter, Kalyan, Thana, were all coming to Wadia. And Wadia was doing about 12 to 13,000 deliveries a year. Means 1,000 deliveries a month and 250 deliveries a week. And we had a week of emergency. And in that 250 deliveries that we had to do in that 1 week, we got every complicated operation to do. And that gave a tremendous experience and a tremendous obstetric judgment when to do and what to do, which is very important in obstetrics. And one more thing which I learned from Wadia. At that time, septic abortion were so many that Wadia had a full ward of 20 beds. And all 20 beds were full all the time, and extra beds had to be put up. So that was the reason that as soon as I started practice, I went into developing termination of pregnancy, modifying the operation, making it safer, and making it available, although the laws were not there, free of charge, so that nobody could point a finger and say, oh, you are doing it because you can exploit and make more money out of terminating unwanted pregnancies. Then after Wadia, I traveled. And that was, at that time, a routine for every doctor, whether they were from Calcutta or Madras or Bombay or Delhi, to have a postgraduate foreign qualification. And UK was at that time the choice, not so much USA, which at the moment is getting more favor by upcoming doctors going to US more than UK. But previously it was all UK. And there too I was lucky to get tremendous experience.
So you said your brother was already in the UK, and you and your wife, Pilu, were there in UK, and you said that you had a very hard time getting your first job.
Yeah. I'll say something. My brother Fadoon was excellent. He got gold medal in MS over here. Then he went to US at UK and did his primary fellowship and passed again with very high honors and met. So even the president of the Royal College of Surgeons had become very friendly with him. And then when I went, I did my primary fellowship and there was a surgical job to be done. So in the BMJ, the British Medical Journal, we get all the vacancies available. And I was staying with my cousin who was settled in US, in London as a permanent person. And Pilu and myself, my wife Pilu and myself, she could copy handwriting something like mine. And believe me, every day we were applying to different hospitals around England, not Scotland much, around England. Application, there would be reply, yes, we are considering your application. Next day, sorry, post is given. Like that, so many letters I was getting. At that time, There were no mobile phones, no internet. It was all by letters. And of course, the routine landline. Then one hospital in Rochester, which is a surgical hospital, and I wanted to do a short-term surgical to qualify for the exam. We applied, and the doctor called. There were two units, one Mr. Townley, one Mr. Greenwood. It was Mr. Greenwood who was a very gentle, soft person. And when I was in for interview, my wife Pilu was waiting out. He saw the primary fellowship done, then MD and the operating experience of C-sections and all at the ward, plus at Nayak Hospital. So he said, Doctor, I'm sorry, but this post is meant for a junior doctor who has just finished. It's not for you. But I said, no, I need this job. Because my wife and me for nearly 3 months are searching for a job. He said, if you are willing, I'll give it. And appointed me. And to my good luck, I always believe a bit of destiny. In 2 months, the senior most post as a resident, senior registrar, got vacant. The hospital did not advertise and put me straight onto the senior resident post. So I had tremendous surgical experience, major surgeries and simple surgeries. And that time, luckily I'd done primary fellowship, so my anatomy was good. And there was a book kept in the theatre, all steps of operation by photographs. So that I would have to open before the operating session. And off and on, I would phone from London for my brother, who had finished his primary and the second FRCS within 3 months.
Okay.
It was considered a record because the post was falling vacant in Nayak. And Dr. Datsur and my father told him, don't miss this post, come back. So immediately he appeared for the exam, cleared the exam and came back to become the assistant honorary at Nayak. So I would phone him and tell him, I'm pretty nervous, this is happening, that is happening. He was the one who supported it. Don't miss this opportunity. Forget obstetrics, just keep doing surgery. And for 1.5 years at St. Bart's Hospital, Rochester, it was a tremendous surgical experience. And the boss became so friendly that I was with my wife, Pilu, to go to Germany to be the best man for a German friend of ours, and travel with them when they met their elders after the war. It was a routine. And I had not enough money. So I just took leave for 5 days. And my boss said, only 5 days and you're going to Germany? So I told him, you're very friendly. We used to play tennis together, badminton together. He was a sportsman. So immediately he said, you need money? He took his checkbook and wrote 500 pounds, which was a gesture, which most of the nurses, when they came to know, said, you are a blue-eyed boy, you are a blue-eyed boy. The boss has never been so good with any other doctor.
You finished your FRCS, and at one point you almost thought of taking up general surgery because your brother Fardun helped you. But what a shame it would have been if he had missed having you as an obstetrician. But I think destiny...
Personally, I enjoyed more being an obstetrics and gynae. And surgery only gave me the confidence of doing gynae surgery without any handicap and that is a sort of a experience which many gynecologists may not get an opportunity to have.
You finished your UK stint and you came back to India to practice as an obstetrician and gynecologist. And you tell me it was very, very tough to set up a private practice. And amongst many people who helped you, you named Dr. Shelatkar as one person, although you had not worked with him, was very, very supportive. You also narrated one incident at the Bacha nursing home of a lady who was in prolonged labor. Can you tell us something on that?
No, when I was back to India, we were looking for jobs in UK just out of curiosity. And there was a job, and contacted a friend of mine. So that job was offered to me. Then I went to meet Dr. Shelatkar, and I became very close with him because he was the medical director, FPA, and I was also with FPA. So we traveled together to Colombo, to Nepal. He was operating, I was operating, and giving local people lectures. So the moment I went and met him, he said, Dr. Rusi, here you are somebody, but there you will be nobody. And at that time, the difference between an Asian and a UK person, they would select a third grade UK doctor, but not select a first grade Asian doctor. So I immediately got the hint, and I said no to that job, and I don't regret it at all. And
we were blessed to have you.
It was in the beginning of your practice. Your approach is all the time. Any patient that comes, you would go out of your way to be very gentle, perfect, everything. And at that time, Beach Candy had maternity, but was restricted very, very much. And I used to do a lot of work at Bacha Nursing Home, obstetric gynae. And one VIP lady, a top solicitor herself, and I did a very normal vaginal delivery. And it was a Saturday morning. I went and saw her by Saturday afternoon because one had to be visiting more and make sure everything went well. And I came home, and Sunday I got a call from the resident doctor. And Bacha Nursing Home was very popular at that time. And the resident doctor told me she's very uncooperative and not listening to us and shouting at us all the time. We have given her pethidine twice. With pethidine, she's little comfortable, but she's complaining of pain. So on Monday, first thing in the morning, I went to Bacha and saw, and I found as if it was the uterus full pregnant, and it was the bladder. It was retention of urine. And the moment she saw me, she said, I'm so glad you have come. I'm telling them I want to pass urine, and they don't listen to me. And I'm trying and it's not coming. So it was a complete retention. So immediately put a catheter in, and I called Fardun because he was the urologist. He said leave the catheter for 48 hours. We left the catheter for 48 hours. Luckily, the couple was very understanding. The message I would like to give is, if you are honest, if you are very candid with your patient, if you have made a mistake, claim, yes, it was not, of course, with a little manipulation, but you don't tell a lie. If you tell one lie, to hide that lie, a bigger lie. To hide that lie, a bigger lie. And you get trapped finally. So be honest, be very candid, and then nobody will ever sue you. It's only when the communication between you and your patients fall or disappears, then the litigations is the next event that takes place.
Yes, it is the
actually,
trust that matters. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely right. The trust that matters, which keeps the bond between the patient and the doctor relation.
Yeah.
But this
So,
was the same patient who edged you to invent your own contraceptive device.
give me half a minute. So I called Fadun being also newly established, called Dr. Karan Jawala. And what I would like to drive home or give you should be friendly with all your colleagues and doctors. So that it is the doctors who will talk against you unless you are very friendly with them, who will support you. Dr. Karunjala came and he came with a manometer or what is called some gauge, and he played, and there was zero bladder pressure, even with the bladder half full. So he said, no, catheter cannot be removed, left it in. 7 days, she went home with the catheter. And every week, we would check with the pressure gauge, zero pressure, zero pressure. Nearly 4 weeks passed. But the husband and wife were so cooperative and so helpful. No noise, no ill. And one fine day, she told at 6 in the morning that urine is coming by the side of the catheter and the blood pressure built up. She was then completely normal and again came back for the second delivery. Because if you have not handled the first delivery well, the patients usually, more so that, were very going with the second doctor was a very common practice.
After the second delivery, it was the same patient who edged you to have your own intrauterine device. Can you tell us a little on the invention of the S or the Sonawala loop?
Now, this particular patient, very intelligent, as I said, a leading solicitor in Bombay. So contraception, we were discussing. And at that time, freshly returned doctors from UK or US were given a 700 rupees stipend to encourage them to stay in India and not go back. They were called research officers. At Nair, I was the research officer for the oral contraceptive, Enola, Gynola. They were just introduced, and we had to carry out certain checkups and all that. And it was the ICMR trial. And there was a colleague of mine who was doing the lipase loop study. So when we were discussing, this lady said, I would prefer a loop. I don't want any hormones. I said, fine, we'll wait for a while. After 2 months or 3 months, your bladder improves, we'll give you the contraceptive loop. And I went to that colleague of mine, can I have a lipase loop for private patients? And I was flatly told, not at all. It's so dangerous, you might perforate the uterus and I'll get the blame, and a lot of hesitancy. And I was very upset because we had gone through 5 years of undergraduate together, MD together, and when the fellowship I'm back and I'm told you can't put in a loop. So I was very irritated. And luckily, when my two brothers were in London studying, at the same time, two of the Garware brothers were studying. Garwares were famous to introduce plastics into India. And they became very close friends. They were also four brothers, and we were four brothers. So we used to meet and have parties together and all. And when Chandrakant Garware, his wife was expecting, and last minute the doctor who was in charge had an emergency herself and had to fly out of India. So I was asked to look after her. and we used to meet in the evenings. So that evening when I went with my wife to look for dinner, he immediately said, "What is wrong today? Why are you grumpy?" I just kept quiet. I didn't say anything. But he said, "No, you are not your normal self. Tell me what's happening." So I told him I couldn't get a loop, and I promised a patient of mine, and I don't want to feel stupid. I promised the patient we will put it at this time. He said, "What is a loop?" I said, "It's a plastic thing like this. He said, "Tomorrow come to the factory, we'll make it." So I went to Worli factory. All the engineers were there, and then the discussion came, if you make a leapies, you might be prosecuted for patents. So then I decided, why leapies make a S loop, and made an S loop, and they made the mold, and they started extraction molding of S, and then to tie the thread and inserter and all. So that was also a very good coincidence that I was all the time working on contraception, and need for the loop came in, and so I had to make my own.
So that was the necessity is the mother of invention. It was very important that you deliver to your patient what you had promised, and that was the birth of the Sunawala's loop, the S-shaped loop. Contraception and family planning took you very close to the USAID, the USAID, and POP Council, the Population Council. And one of the meetings in 1967 at Santiago in Chile, it was destiny that brought two R's together, Rustam and Raul Palmer. Can you tell us something on how this friendship grew and what was the outcome of this friendship?
Dr. Palmer was the senior-most French gynecologist, and he is considered to be the father of gynecological endoscopy. So with that, and at that time, the demand of population control was also very high around the world. So he had designed a special instrument, so with only scopy, so no cut, 2 holes, you could block the tubes. And in France, the number of cases were so few, so that you couldn't do a big trial. And we were sitting side by side in Santiago, and the moment you would say you're from India, somehow foreigners would get very much excited and ask you more about India, because that time much was not known. And then I spoke about our vaginal sterilization camps, where we used to do 500 cases over 2-3 days. And it means at that time, camps was the popular way of implementing the contraceptives and keeping the population under control. So we asked, hey, would you volunteer and try out my applicator to block the tube? Then I said, of course, I'll be very happy. So he said, I'll send you the laparoscopes and I will send you all the equipment. And he was very big in WHO and all. So he asked WHO to send 3 laparoscopes. At that time, stores was not there. It was all Richard Wolf. So 3 laparoscopes with a huge parabolic camera and oxygen cylinder, that big box to fill the gas into the carbon dioxide into the abdomen, and a big light source, which was as big as a boot box for generating the fiber optic light had just come. And only condition was I should teach people, and not only in Bombay, but the whole of India. So we were given an opportunity to travel around India and train the Indian doctors. And then the request came to train Pakistani doctors, Nepalese doctors, Bangkok, and Thailand doctors, and Nigerian doctors in Colombo. So that really gave me a large circle of friends, because once a doctor is trained by you, and I had a very good team. Late Dr. Kusum Javeri, Dr. Janji Punjabi, Dr. F.P. Sonali, he was demonstrating vasectomy and reversal, and Dr. Vijay Desai, who used to give spinal anesthesia with a 2-inch ordinary injection needle, not even 1.5 inch. He used to be so good with that 1.5 inch needle. We all were a warrior team who met and started doing the camps every month and traveled all over India from north to south. And Nigerian and WHO was sending doctors here to learn.
Yes.
So,
and that took you across the length and breadth of the country and made you in touch with the roots and met all the local doctors. And as you said, you also went international. During the same time, you were associated with the Christian Medical Association of India, one of the missionary associations which believed in contraception and abortion. And through their association also, you moved across their 350 hospitals. I think that gave you a lot of confidence that you wanted to take this family planning ahead. And I think it also seeded the seeds of becoming the Foxy president one day. Tell me something on your association with this Christian Medical Association of India.
Amongst the Christians, there are Roman Catholics, Protestants, Neo-Protestants. Roman Catholics are staunch believers, don't believe in contraception. The Protestants and the Neo people believe in contraception. Now, at that time in India, education and health was mainly controlled by this mission people. There were German missions, French missions which were working in Pondicherry, then the Spanish in Portugal working in Goa and all. So Dr. Bhatt, who was the medical head of the Christian Medical Association of India, based in Bangalore, had come to Bombay to demonstrate a sterilization by a German doctor. And we met. And then I gave a talk, the German doctor gave a talk. Then we decided we'll exchange and they would send doctors here. But we found that if the doctor were to come, 5 doctors, 7 doctors at the most. While if we went to their hospital, there will be at least 50 to 100 doctors. So we started a program. Every month, one visit to one of the CMAI hospitals. Vellore was one of them, Miraj one of them, then Chandigarh, right from north to south. There are more than 300 mission hospitals. And we had to train all those. So it was not that we traveled to 300, we must have traveled to about 50, 55. And their doctors from the neighboring hospital would all come
down.
So it was a fantastic experience to meet so many doctors. And naturally, once you train or teach the doctor, they will remember you for lifetime. So once there was a meeting in Morocco, and my wife and myself were invited for that meeting. And we took the opportunity and went to US, then London, then Paris, and from Paris to Morocco. And when I went for checking in on Thursday, Friday was the conference to begin. And I gave the registration and the letters to the hotel for the room and all. But the guy at the hotel reception just flatly speak in French, but no reservation. So we were getting absolutely frantic, and now in a strange country, all French speaking, and nobody here in Bombay, you can phone up your friends and find some accommodation somewhere. So we were getting very disturbed. Suddenly from the back, second or third person waiting in the queue to register was a Nigerian doctor trained by us in Bombay. He came up, he tapped my shoulder, he said, "Are you not Dr. Sinola?" I said, "Yeah, I am Dr. Sinola." He just took my form, gave it to that guy, and in French, fired him so much that the guy immediately took the form and gave us a room.
So you not only got a room, but maybe you were upgraded also because they were so scared that they had done some big mistake.
These sort of experiences, really, when we were absolutely desperate and lost, suddenly you find somebody has come and your pathway is clear.
Yes. You also said that giving in life gives more happiness than taking in life. And knowledge is important to improve the quality of care. I think these were the very reasons why you were happy to share your knowledge, share your experience, and that got you so much of goodwill and, as you said, so much of good karma. Let's listen to two of your students who have all but praises for you, for your teaching, for your gentleness, and for your very good humility. So can we have the tape of Dr. Raju Sahetia? Dr. Raju Sahetia is a very well-renowned obstetrician and gynecologist and has been associated with Dr. RP for many years, and in fact they have both worked in the ISPAT and for genetics. Can we have the film for Dr. Raju Sahetia?
Dr. Rustam Firoz Sunawala, aka RP, a very well-known and a dashing personality, a legend, a beloved obstetrician and gynecologist to who's who of India. A boss, a friend, a confidant. With his warmth and gentle caring attitude, he has won many hearts. It is my pleasure and privilege to be known to RP and to be connected to him even today, and to have been chosen to say a few words about him. I have known RP for now 4 decades. His persona, his mannerism is so simple, yet elegant and appealing. I have been very lucky to always hear an affirmative response for all my requests. Whether it was to invite him to Lokanwala complex to inaugurate my Pushpa hospital, or requesting him to become the founder president of ISPAT, or requesting him to receive Rotary International and Association of Medical Consultant Award, or gracing my daughter Dr. Shraddha's wedding at the Leela in Goa, and my son Dr. Ankesh's wedding at the Leela in Mumbai. Despite his busy schedule, he was there, like one of our family members. RP always kept me and my family in mind for all his happy occasions. The weddings, the Navjots, inauguration of Pashmina Clinic, his award functions, his interviews, the book release, and so on. We have spent good time together when we traveled for conferences and workshops, whether it was lectures during the day and drinks at the bar in the evening, having chilled shandy or vodka with Sprite, our favorite drink. We have shared many hours together discussing and talking about our families, medical fraternity, future in medical practices, and many such thoughts. They all are a treasure to me. God bless RP. Thank you.
Other student who was very thrilled to be part of this interview is Dr. Reena Agarwal. Reena is basically from Mumbai, but now settled in the UK as a fertility specialist. So let's hear what Reena has to say about whom she says is a friend, philosopher, guide, and a mentor to her.
2 minutes, 2 lifetimes may not be enough to speak about the glories of a wondrous Dr. Sunavla. I've always considered myself extremely privileged and very fortunate to have worked with legendary Indian gynecologists in the 80s. But when I got my MD in 1989, I sought training opportunities with Dr. Sunavla and was extremely disappointed when I was turned away from various hospitals he worked in, including Beach Candy. Not being deterred by my failures, I turned up at his clinic and asked him whether I could work with him. And it just so happened that Dr. Nagarwala had to have an emergency back surgery, and that essentially left Dr. Sunavla without an assistant. After interviewing me, he asked me when I could start, and I said, "How about now?" He laughed and said that he would pick me up from the clinic at 7 a.m. tomorrow. And this is where the fascinating training journey with Dr. Sunavla began in the 80s. He would pick me up at 7 a.m. and we would travel from hospital to hospitals, operating on patients, eventually turn up at the clinic at about 4 p.m. where we would start a clinic at Pashmina only to finish way past midnight. So during the time I spent with Dr. Sunavla, I considered it my polishing stage of my training in India, wherein he taught me values of humility, that of kindness and compassion, that of deep empathy, and treating not only the patients but the relatives who accompanied the patient with dignity and respect. I was fascinated by the fact that even in his extremely busy schedule, he always found time to help the patients up from their lying down position, to smile and laugh with them on a joke or two. He was at his pinnacle of his career, and I often accompanied him to see some of his very important patients, but he always took the time to introduce me to them and speak a kind word or two. He always encouraged and praised his trainees at every opportunity he got. And these values, which I learned from him, stood by me in my entire career spanning 35 years now. And the biggest gift this great man has given all his trainees is his implicit trust in the trainees he had trained and the belief in their capabilities. And this is exemplified by the fact that he has entrusted the care of his patients in UK to me for the past 30 years. And whilst being a great professional, his humility and kindness pervaded in his personal life too. He visited London many a times, and I was fortunate enough to have witnessed that he enjoyed simpler things in life, such as meeting friends, visiting the English countryside, eating crispy fish and chips at the riverside pub, slurping oysters at the Selfridges Oyster Bar with some crispy champagne, and attending London theatres and operas. I could spend the whole day speaking about many such incidents and experiences, but wanted to say to you, Dr. Sunavla, that thank you for making us the doctors we are. We love you.
Sir, by now you had acquired a large amount of name and fame, and organizations, associations were very keen to be associated with you. You perhaps have the distinction of setting up world-class facilities, not only in India, but even abroad. Tell me something on your association with the WellCare Hospital, Dubai.
In Dubai, initially the government only allowed government hospitals. Then after 1990 or a little before, they opened up and were allowing private hospitals as well. And American Hospital was the first private hospital that started in Dubai. In Dubai there was a family, Varki family, very, very popular, very big in education. Number of schools they had, and fantastic schools, fully air conditioned, and there was a great demand, and the number of hospitals in Middle East was more than 20, plus their hospitals in Italy, in London, in UK, not London, in UK, so that they were in education. So Mr. Barki wanted to enter into health, and he was coming and staying in Oberoi Hotel, where he had met Dr. Bajaj. So he requested, and Dr. Bajaj gathered a team. A teamwork always succeeds better than a single individual. So the team was Dr. Wadia, the neurophysician, Dr. Gandhi, the urologist, Dr. Jamshed Sunawala, my cousin, as a physician, then Dr. Fadun as a urologist and surgeon, and me as a gynecologist. Now, for Arab patients to go to a male doctor was something unheard of. But as I told you, if you respect their, say, modesty and cover up, and your work is good, the Arab patients and the Arab husbands will come in for an opinion whenever there was a problem. And even now today I can say that every month we get at least 4 or 5 patients from Dubai, although we have stopped going to Dubai more than 12 years ago. So that reputation as an opinion, as an honest opinion, they would be flocking to Bombay. And when we were going to Dubai, the 5 of us had made such a reputation that the joke was that when the WellCare Hospital airport is, parking is full, we know the Indian doctors have come. Because without us, the hospital was working, and it at one...
Not to full capacity.
Yeah, not to full capacity. And we used to go for a week and really enjoyed working in the daytime and every evening at different restaurant.
Yes, and in the lighter tone, I think you were one of the most handsome obstetricians and gynecologists. So I'm sure women would have not minded subjecting themselves to be examined by you. But that's on a lighter note. You also helped set up the Mahatma Gandhi Hospital in Jaipur. And in fact, you were one of them who laid the foundation stones for that hospital. What was your association with that hospital?
Shelatkar was a student from Jaipur. He studied in Chandigarh and he then came to Bombay. And he worked in Bombay at Parsi General and worked with me, and I just knew him as a good doctor, resident doctor working. When he started his private practice, he was very keen to take up infertility. And his Jaipur Fertility Clinic was the first clinic in north of India which did IVF and other procedures. So when he started his fertility clinic, he asked me to come and do the tape cutting. And then subsequently he grew and grew and grew. And in 1998, he came with a big pile of papers and book. In Rajasthan, there are not enough medical colleges, and the government has given a plan to help out. So I want to do it. First I said, Mohan, medical college is usually run by a corporate like Birla's or any major business corporate usually tries to run a hospital or a medical college. He said, no sir, we will. You just say yes and you be the chairman. So I said, yeah, I don't mind. And in 2000 February, we put the foundation stones of a hospital and a college in a desert, in an industrial area which the Rajasthan government had just marked out, and we were one of the first to take up a plot of 30 acres of land and start. And we have not seen back. Now it is more than 1,000 bedded hospital doing cardiac transplants, kidney transplants, CABGs, and name it. Everything is done at a very, very sensible cost and for the poor. So it's quite an achievement that Dr. Shelatkar gets the credit. I was only the figurehead to be by his side and say, yes, we'll do it, yes, we won't do it. And now I'm feeling so happy that this institution can be compared with institutions like Manipal. And it's a very, very sensible admission fees, which is fixed by the Rajasthan government.
When I spoke to Dr. Shelatkar, he told me that he was blessed to have you with him, and he credits Rajasthan's first private university to you, sir. And I have a bit of a clip recording from him. So can we have the recording of Dr. Mohan Shelatkar be played, please?
नमस्कार सर, मैं जयपुर से डॉक्टर मोहन शelatkar बोल रहा हूँ। डॉक्टर आरपी सोनावाला न केवल मेरे मेंटर मेरे लिए एक फादरली फिगर हैं और उनकी ब्लेसिंग्स मुझे लगभग 4 डिकेड से, जब से जयपुर फर्टिलिटी और आईवीएफ सेंटर जयपुर में हमने शुरू किया 1988 में, तब से ऐसा कोई भी फंक्शन नहीं है जिसमें डॉक्टर सोनावाला नहीं आए हैं और उन्होंने हमें ब्लेसिंग्स नहीं दी हैं। डॉक्टर सोनावाला के ही ब्लेसिंग से हमने राजस्थान का पहला प्राइवेट मेडिकल कॉलेज सन 2000 में एस्टेब्लिश किया। He was very much there during foundation stone laying ceremony along with the Honorable Chief Minister of that time. And all inaugurations, he has been here. He is the living legend, not only in the field of gynecology, but across the medical fraternity spectrum, you can say. One has to see how much respect he gives to the tissue during surgery.
This is your friend, Dr. Mohan Shelatkar from Jaipur, speaking on you, and it must be very touching for you to know that how much he loves you and how much he cares for you, sir. You also helped to set up Max Healthcare in Delhi, and your association with Dr. Singh was very well known to all of us. Can you tell one of the incidences where you think that your opinion made all the difference in how Max is looked out now 20 years down the line?
Yeah, Ranbaxi Laboratories by Mohan Singh family. Analjit is the third son. They had 3 sons. Analjit is the third. And he was in pharma, bulk drug production and all. And then the family divided the business, and he also entered into healthcare. And I was on board of Ranbaxy, and then I left Ranbaxy and joined with Ameet as the Max group of industries. There are many different, and Max Touch was the first mobile phone that they were introduced in India. Then I used to go to Delhi right from 66 as a ICMR advisor. That also I think we will be narrating how it came to. And I was seeing patients. I was operating at either Apollo Hospital, private nursing homes, anywhere I would apply or request, they always have thrown doors open and welcomed me. So there were 5-6 different private nursing homes, then Apollo and all hospitals I've been from 1965. So when Max Hospital was started, there was a team, but Mr. Singh had maximum faith in my judgment. And Max did very well in Delhi. And it became, because before that, there were also government hospitals only. So very well in Delhi. And Delhi started developing healthcare in a big way. The Apollo group came in, Fortis came in, then there were many hospitals which were all coming in at that time. And I was having a good luck, I never stayed in a hotel. From the time I was with Ranbaxy, Mr. Singh, father, Bhai Mohan Singh, always made me stay at the house. Somehow at that, all the board members and all would be staying in hotels, but I was always made to stay in the guest room of the house. So I was staying with Ameet, and he said, tomorrow, what are you doing? I used to go every month to operate in Delhi. So I said, I'm operating in the morning at 8 o'clock. Oh, he said, oh, I wish you were free because we are having a big meeting. I'm under a lot of pressure by all the CEOs of different, because by that time, Max had developed 9 hospitals in Delhi proper. There were 150 bedded and the maximum was 800 bedded at Saket. And so it said the meeting is, they have worked out plans to spread like Fortis and Apollo and to Hyderabad, Calcutta, Bombay and South. And what do you think? So just like a flash, it came to me. And I said, Ameet, no, don't ever think of entering into a rat race. Because health is a very important thing. You need good doctors, good management. The profits are not so big because you have to give a 5-star hotel service where they would pay 15,000 a day willingly, but to a hospital they will hesitate to pay more than 7,000. So let's develop Delhi. And I said there is only one Taj in India, and that is Taj in Agra. You cannot keep duplicating Taj all over in India, and people who want to see Taj will come. So that gave him the idea, or him thought what to do. Next day the meeting started, and everyone brought out the plans of land in Hyderabad, land in Calcutta, what they would be getting. They just made a whole thing program. And Mr. Singh just said, sorry, we are not going to do this. So all the CEOs, there were many CEOs, were all upset. They had worked for 3-4 months to make this whole program, because he was a very meticulous person, planning everything well. And he just said, Dr. Sunawala has said no, so it is no. I was so much happy because that evening was a dinner at his house when some of the CEOs had come, and those CEOs attacked me. What do you mean? Why did you say no? Why did you say no? But just that one no which I said, he respected it so much. And this is a sort of friendship which I enjoy.
Yes. And that is what you told him, that don't go for commercial gains, but start max in smaller places where you are needed and where you will be more appreciated. Sir,
Now
amongst
Max is in Dehradun, Batinda, Amritsar, means all of North India was short of good medical, affordable healthcare.
Sir, amongst all your awards and prizes that you have received, I think the Padma Shri, the Dhanvantari Award, and the Von Grafenberg Award is most closest to your heart. Can you tell us something on the Von Grafenberg Award?
No, having developed the IUD and the technique of pull down loading and sterilizing, which I think I was the pioneer. So in 1984, there was a OBS-GYN meeting in Bombay where Dr. Sen from Kiel, Lilo Mettler, Van Oz, they all were there. And I did not know. And they called me on the stage and gave a few words about me, and then presented me with the Von Grafenberg Award, which I value the maximum, because Padma Shri there will be thousands of people. Von Grafenberg was a gynecologist from Germany who after the Second World War migrated to US and is considered to be the father of intrauterine devices, the Grafenberg ring, which he introduced in 1900s. So in 81 was his 100th birth anniversary, and they had a big meeting in Helsinki. And at that time, they appointed a committee of some few senior people and decided that 10 people in the world will be awarded for their original work in intrauterine device. And I was the 7th to be. 8th one is it also I found. 9 and 10 still are open for any scientist who wants to do original work in intrauterine device. So that is something which I really am thrilled of. It is an award which is going to be only for 10 gynecologists or doctors who do original work in intrauterine method of contraception. Now, Padma Shri, also there is a story. When Padma Shri, in 1965, Dr. Sheldon Siegel, the head of Pop Council, I met in Bombay, and at that time I just designed the IUD, and he was really impressed because he was also one of the pioneers in designing IUDs. And he was, for 2 years, as an advisor to the Indian government on contraception. So he went to Delhi, where he was staying, and Colonel Raina was the head of ICMR. And he spoke with Colonel Raina and recommended my name to be on the board of ICMR, which I enjoyed from 65 to 96 as an advisor on contraception. And in 96, I literally had to push them to allow me to retire because it was getting too complicated and with too many infights, and I didn't want to go into the details of it. And then ICMR, Professor Ramalinga Swami, Vani, were the heads of ICMR, and they had recommended my name for Padma Shri. The protocol is that the state only recommends. So they had to write to Maharashtra, and somehow Maharashtra was not very keen to give it to me. And there were 2 years they kept on recommending, and I was not getting it. And it was not at that time my thing, but only thing Dr. Praful Desai, Dr. Farooq Udwadia, and all my colleagues had got the Padma Shri. That was only a knowledge I had. And then Mr. and Mrs. Bandari were very high in the politics and government, and they came to know. So they approached our President Venkatraman directly and mentioned this to Venkatraman. And then I got the Padma Shri through the President, not through the Maharashtra government.
In 1995, you became Foxy's president, and the theme for your year was Safe Motherhood, a theme which was very much ahead of its times, because as we all said, although you were the obstetrician for the rich and the famous, your heart was still in contraception, in abortion, and in family planning, because that looked after the women who were the most downtrodden, the women who had a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, and the ones that you really cared for. Rashmi Uday Singh has released an excellent biography on you a few years back. Can you narrate something on that and how Rashmi Uday Singh was chosen to be the writer?
No, it was from Delhi, Mr. Aniljeet Singh. When I used to go to Delhi and sit with him and talk about anecdotes, he said, you must write your biography. And first we selected a writer from Delhi, because I used to go every month to Delhi and stay 3-4 days. But somehow it didn't click. Then there was a writer from Bombay who was selected, and we had a couple of meetings and it didn't click. Somehow there was a gap in communication. When Rashmi, who I've looked after all the delivery, one delivery and organic management and everything since many years, and she got to know. So she came forward and she said, I will write the biography. She is a foodie. She writes about different restaurants and food. And it took 2 years because we would be meeting, talk something, then Sunday I would get a call. Then again, after a week we would meet. But she has done a very good job and made it very light reading. And she took a lot of pains meeting people, dialoguing with them, and wrote the book. Unfortunately, all the copies are sold out. They are not available.
The bestseller of that times. You also had a very fond friendship with Professor Robert Winston, whom you met in Seoul. And tell us about that impromptu trip that you all both did to Hong Kong.
Yeah, in 1978, there was a big meeting on contraception in Seoul, where I was also selected. My brother was to talk on vasectomy, and I was to talk on tubal ligation as the speakers. And Steptoe had just managed the first IVF baby. He was there talking on IVF. Winston was there talking on reversal of sterilization. And Professor Winston and Steptoe were at loggerheads because Winston just mentioned that this is a fluke baby. I don't think we'll be able to repeat it again. Something like that he mentioned, and Steptoe was furious and Vincent equally furious. So both of them, the sentence I still remember when Vincent said, "I don't mind drawing sword to argue against your IVF." He was talking for tubal canalization and infertility because Vincent was a microsurgeon doing a lot of tubal work. When there was a dinner at night, so luckily in the bus, Fardun was there, myself was there, and Winston also came. And we started chatting, and the moment you would say you're from India, they would be quite amazed to meet you. And then after dinner he said, "Where will you all be going?" So I said, "We are invited to Hong Kong, University of Hong Kong, to give a talk." Professor Ho Kem Ma was the head of the gynae department who I had met in London meetings. So many conferences I had attended at that time, thanks to Dr. Motasha, because she would be looking after my patients. That gave me an opportunity to travel. And we have been close friends from the day go. So she would be looking after my patients and I would be looking after her patients, so we both could travel anytime. Otherwise in private practice it's difficult. So we were invited to Hong Kong. So Robert Winston, he said, "I have not been east of Jerusalem." Very staunch Jewish doctor, even now, is very, very staunch in Prophet following. So I said, "Then you can come with us to Hong Kong." And he said, "No, you are invited, I'm not invited." I said, "So what? We'll go, you talk." So first he refused, but then he agreed. And next day morning, Fardun spoke, Winston spoke, I spoke, and we were thrilled because all the postgraduate students of the Hong Kong University just crowded the hall. And since that day, he has been a very, very good friend with me. So much so that in the beginning, because I went to the airport to receive him, next time he said, "When you come to London, I'll come to the airport to receive you." He's Lord Winston, and he was one of the big names for microsurgery, and then now for IVF too.
That's correct. And that friendship has stood over 40 years. Sir, it's a real pleasure talking with you.
We have always known Dr. Soonawala as the high-profile doctor, the doctor of the rich and famous, the doctor who has helped a lot of Bollywood actresses to have their babies. Hobnobbing with high-profile people, to my mind, was a very fulfilling act. But when I spoke to Dr. Soonawala, he said, "Looking after the poor who deserve your care is more fulfilling than looking after the rich who can afford your cost." I think that has left me speechless, ladies and gentlemen. He was always my secret hero, and all of us have held him in high esteem. But looking at his narrations, looking at his nobility, looking at his humility, I think he has gone up 2 notches in our minds. We ask you, Dr. Soonawala, to bless us, to be the sun corona, to remove all the darkness, and as some people have said, this too shall pass. Hopefully we will be able to meet in person one day, but on behalf of all the viewers, I would like to thank you for taking time off and being with us. Thank you very much.